What do we value? Language, identity, power, desire. Who is an onlooker and who is a participant?
How did this project come around? How did it come up?
I have been collecting phrases that I've heard people say aloud for about 15 years.
Eavesdropping.
Eavesdropping.
Not eavesdropping, but eaves, no?
Paying attention, I guess.
I like
Paying
it.
attention and having a pen or now my cell phone. But I had been collecting phrases when I met Tria about, I don't know how many years, about 12 years or so. And had about a list of maybe 400 at that time. And now I
Oh
have,
my, that's interesting. I've never heard of that. It's like phrases or bottle tops for you.
kind of,
beer
yes,
cans.
or baseball cards
Baseball
or
cards.
something. So anyway,
Can you remember any in particular that, this is a
I can.
nasty question.
I can literally remember hundreds.
Well, tell us
can.
if you just off the top of your head for fun.
I'm not lost. I'm with you.
When I first started talking to Tara and Tria about this exhibit, I was nervous. I was concerned that they were taking on a topic that was really important and had so much history. But I was concerned about whether they could pull it off, truly. I had never seen Tara take on subject matter like this in such a direct way. I felt like the exhibit could be provocative and engaging and interesting and is still relevant today, but I was concerned about how we would get there.
There are these moments when you feel like you're becoming something that's not yourself, but that's an imitation of yourself, or not even an imitation of yourself, but an imitation of something that you're supposed to be like, that you're supposed to look like, that you're supposed to behave like, and you get rewarded for that kind of behavior.
We latched onto this phrase, and this phrase made sense to us because we've had experiences as women as what are the pros of being a doll? What are the cons of being a doll? What are the advantages? Where do you play that, where do you play that string, and how exactly do you do that to your benefit to achieve your own identity and also to get ahead in the world?
The reward is that I get to go out in society and not be questioned, that I get attention when I want it, and that people will, to a degree, listen to me. To a degree not, because that's the double-edged sword.
Anyone who loves Tinkerbell will have to sit down. But I mean, I cringe when I think at what Tinkerbell looks like. Tinkerbell has a skirt dress sort of onesie thing, very much like a baby. But the bottom of her outfit barely covers her bottom. I mean, like, if she was really flying, even if there wasn't wind, like, you'd see her ass, you'd see it because it's so short. And I think, why? Why do we have to tell them? Why do we have to tell girls or boys or anybody at 2 or 3 years old, which Tinkerbell is very focused around that age level, why are we telling them this then? Why? It's really, truly upsetting to me because it's not just, having to be pretty and having to be skinny and having to be beautiful and have nice hair and pretty eyes that people remember the color of because that's in all the songs. That's enough. But to add to that, this sexual element, when you're 2 or 5 or 6 or 10, or 12 or whatever, like that is just, it's inappropriate. It's not helpful. It's just not helpful.
I had a lot of conversations with both of them throughout the course of this about the need for context and the need to take seriously the tone that the exhibition was going to create or present, so people couldn't be dismissive of the seriousness of the work because it was so pretty.
The best way to describe it is as if you took a large format children's picture book and you fanned out the pages.
So each open page, set of pages, creates a room.
The narrative follows this woman through her day from breakfast until bedtime.
So this model, you're directed into the front of the house, into the breakfast room, you enter the atrium, and then from the atrium you enter the closet, into the cocktail party, into the bedroom, and then you'll exit. You see this very often in children's books. I have a story called I'm a Bunny. And so you go through this time lapse for this bunny through the day.
Because a lot of what this is about is here are the routines that you go through and that you repeat, and the way you spend your day is the way that you spend your life.
I think that the narrative, like the aesthetic of the work, smartly draws people in. It provides sort of a safe access point for the work because it's familiar, it's rhythmic.
I'm just like a doll living here in Guy's house. I'm pretty as pretty can be. And then we changed it later to be we're pretty as pretty can be, because we wanted the idea that he participates in the system as well, that he's pretty too. He's part of it.
My life as a doll sort of plays out something that happens in a lot of relationships. People have a tendency to project on others what they think they should be, who they think they should be, how they think they should act.
We decided that every stanza really needed to have some hint at the precariousness of the situation. So there's a little bit of danger in each place, and it's not always overt danger.
That sort of role characterization that's happening in the show plays out every day. In the context of the show, it's frustrating to me that the woman is still there. You know, she does feel, I surmise by what's played out there, she does feel trapped in a lot of ways. But I also wish that she would feel more empowered. You know, if she's trapped, then figure out how to get out of the trap.
It seems like Guy is far away, though watching over me through the day. Foucault wrote about the panopticon, that the idea of that you might be being looked at is what keeps you under control in your daily life.
I think the first conversation that I had with Tara and Tree about the exhibit was probably a year and a half ago. I had watched Tara's work, I've known her for years, but we'd never had a serious conversation about presenting her work at Diverse Work. She was kind of doing, you know, some public projects, some public sculptures, and simply talked about the ideas and sort of the framework that they were starting from. I instantly wanted to give it a shot. You know, I wanted to work with them on it because I felt like in this day and age that conversation is still so important to have. And so this show dealing with this subject matter was, you know, something that I was drawn to.
I've always done this, no matter what else is going on in my life, I guess, or done something like this. Whether it was like mud pies or whether it was, you know, something else. Making a mess somehow. And then cleaning it up, and then making a mess, and then cleaning it up. I didn't think I could draw for the longest time. I didn't think I could draw until probably like 11th grade. I draw really differently now. I don't draw, I do a lot of line drawing, and I know what I'm drawing, but somebody else might not know. I was trained as a metalsmith, but I started making things that didn't really fit that mode. Some of it was in size, some of it was in concept. The school I went to, which was at RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology School for American Crafts, you know, they had glass blowing, they had metalsmithing, they have incredible facilities, but they didn't have a fine art school. And I was really jonesing for that part of it. I didn't realize it, but that's really what I was interested in as well. And because I wanted to make sculpture, and they didn't teach sculpture. But the best thing, and the reason my work, I think, has the look that it does, the reason that I will sit here and sand this, and the way it was before you started filming would have been fine for most people, is because I was trained as a craftsperson. And it matters that everything's smooth, and it matters that there's a smooth transition, and it matters that you take it from, you know, 80 grit to 100 grit to 200 grit. Anyway, so I think that was that is something that has made me who I am as far as my aesthetic and how I make things and go about things. Those processes I learned doing metal work, but a lot of the things that we've looked at so far in the show do look like slick and whatever. Not everything will be those types of forms, and everything will be brightly colored, but some things will have a different textured surface, a regular surface, you know, not irregular, but they won't all be like a glass sort of polished, smooth look to them.
Let's see, you said the show's 8 days out.
I think so. I don't know. Let's look.
It's November 1st, so it's 9 days. 10
It is
days.
the second.
Oh, is it this?
The first was yesterday. It was my mom's birthday. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9. 9's not as bad as I thought. So I have 9 days, including today.
Estamos amigos de Rejero para recordarles que nadie en Houston te va a ofrecer garantía de por vida.
I'm gonna lay down. Can I lay on it? Isn't it gorgeous? Look at it. Look at all these. Did you get all these? Get all this. See those shadows?
Black and white like that.
Isn't that gorgeous? Yeah, I think that works.
I make no distinction between people who dig ditches or drive trucks than any creative person. You know, if you want to get good at it, you got to work at it. You know, I've seldom seen a harder working artist, and that's saying a lot. I don't care what it is that you've chosen to do. If you want to be a good artist, you got to work at it. You have to study. You have to funnel yourself through the history of whatever you're interested in, and you have to physically go at it. I mean, you have to get up and go and do your work. My main interest in the work is to figure out the relativity of the image. People assume what they see is reality. And they get this reality from pieces of wreckages, bits of abstractions that come from like family hand-me-downs, dinner parties, media, all kinds of media. And so we assume that what we're looking at is the foundation of the truth. And it's my contention that this is far from the truth. The plasticity of Tara's piece is both fog and dark. In Eugene O'Neill's masterpiece, Long Day's Journey into Night, the younger child describes his family and the illusions of his family as walking through fog. And this is very telling about most family units and most the complications between who you are as a physical being and what you are as an interior being. The shadow world, those dark spaces, those dark pieces of composition. And even if it's illuminated, like the life of a doll is illuminated, right? There's shadow worlds involved in that. Underneath this access of physical beauty, there are some dark things happening. You know, listen, this woman is reflected throughout culture, you know. I mean, you see this woman every day on cable television. You know, she's there. I mean, listen, anybody who saw Tyra's exhibition, this ain't the first time they have seen this stuff. I mean, you know, all you gotta do is look. You see her, right? And it's sad though to see it, because this woman, and I'm talking about the person in Tyra's show, has made a set of decisions. All right. Now she's here, surrounded by isms and things and artifacts from that decision made. And so, you know, now that we see a kind of melting away of just her confidence, you know, because she's trapped, you know, because now this stuff is just not a physical space, it's an interior space with this person. I find that very strange and interesting, you know, because I recognize that. Men can have that too, you know. It's when you get at home by yourself that you begin to war with yourself about these things, you know? Is when you get home and only you know what the situation is. It becomes quite problematic. It's conscience at that point.
Well, having two daughters, it just gives you just a view into their lives.
How are you seeing me? How am I fitting in, or do I meet your expectations?
In the art world, you rarely see art that is honest.
I think a lot of the issues that this installation addresses have been dormant since the 1960s.
It was interesting to hear a whole world that I didn't know about.
Very much that feeling of feeling trapped, but also being so afraid to lose him. In some ways, I was put on display, but in some ways, I wanted to be on display.
It does make you think more about what some women face being married, just being married, and maybe feel like they're kept in maybe even in a beautiful house, but it might feel more like a cage.
And this kind of makes you realize, like, if you just float along, that's not good enough, that's not complete.
I want to know more. I want to know, like, what the whole story is.
It's not negative in any way, it's not speaking ill of anybody, it's just sort of pointing out some things that perhaps people don't talk about, they feel, they don't know why they feel that, in a very gentle, playful, ironic, funny way.
I'm just like a doll living here in Guy's house. We're as pretty can be. From the lock on the door to the ceiling and floor, he says it's all made just for me. The morning's time to rise and shine, sip some milk and write some lines. In the east, the sunlight streams and shoos away all last night's dreams. It seems like Guy is far away, though watching over me through the day. I'm as cozy as tea in a real china cup. If this is the dream, I don't want to wake up. The atrium is where you'll see my blooms cavorting with his bees. Inside these walls, the honey's made from the sweetest flowers of our magic glade. Flowers and bees belong together. Here we make the perfect weather. Each specimen grows just as projected, captured, collected, and protected. To dress myself is no small task when details count from shoes to mask. So I prepare with care each day according to each part I play. Gowns and gloves and shoes and rings fill my closet. All the things that help a doll to look just right. Beautiful, brushed, and buttoned in tight. A party. What a delight. With candles and cocktails, delectable bites. Everything sparkles when shined to perfection. I trip and get lost in all those reflections. In dazzling dress, we make conversation, the bubbly, bright buzzing of inebriation. Are you happy, they ask? Well, of course, I reply, and watch as the shadows go skittering by. When I'm drowsy and dozy, I drift off to bed, where it's comfy and cozy. I lay down my head. I think of the flowers, with buds closed up tight, awaiting the morning while dreaming all night. The shadows loom large as the hours drift by, and the stars sparkle bright as I wait here for Guy. Is this dream my own? Should I even doubt? Maybe tomorrow I'll figure it out.
It takes a while as you walk through the rooms of the house to figure out who is an onlooker or a voyeur and who is a participant. Well, in this case, the distinction is moot, all right? Everyone in my life as a doll is an autonomous moving part. And it channels everything from Sandy Scotland, Laurie Simmons, Nicole Eisenman, to Ibsen, Jacqueline Susan's Valley of the Dolls.
Having the experience of walking, I suddenly had the image of Mrs. Havisham in Great Expectations in her wedding dress left behind, and the fact that she just wanders around that house and wanders around that garden, and that sense of being trapped, which I think gets us into what kinds of narratives do we get ourselves trapped in.
Is it a dream or is it a nightmare?
Mm-hmm.
And I see that kind of playing through this entire installation as the sort of participant viewer is kind of walking through. We're constantly wondering, is this something we should like or something we should be really wary of?
The scale at which they've done this and the way they have you moving through these rooms, and each one is very complex in its own right, and you know, the spatiality of each room, the way each miniature installation is done within this greater installation, you quickly drop away, I think, or I did anyway, quickly drop away your preconceptions and are turned to take a much, not only a closer look, but just to be in the presence of what you're seeing.
The way that the clothes are named, and we do that. We know that we have, okay, I have a first date tonight. I know what I'm wearing. You know, it's like, okay, I have to go home for Christmas. Okay, I know what I'm wearing. I know what I'm not packing. I mean, we have those things, and the way that, but how much of that is about control? How much of it is about these things that are in our heads, and we know that, okay, when I go out, I want people thinking X, Y, Z. Okay, that means my hair this way, my face, and all the way down, and how much of it is about this kind of the way that we are striving so hard for control, but then ultimately showing that's the problem. We can't find that kind of control.
In exaggerating a world that we know, everything becomes a little bit more sinister, and we're initially attracted to it, and then also kind of maybe apprehensive about our attraction because some of the familiar things have become a little repulsive almost.
That's exactly what it is. It's giving you a safe and imaginary, like a dollhouse, a safe and imaginary place that's both recognizable and yet completely strange, where you can kind of try out. In this case, we're trying out these ideas that this writer and artist, are putting forth, or whatever it is.
It should transport you in some
But it's
way.
right. We want to be in that. We want to be in that fantasy world. We want to be in the dollhouse, and installation really is the form of art that, not that you can't, put yourself into a painting, but I mean to bodily put yourself in that space where we want to be. I think is the interesting thing about what an installation is.
What's at issue here are deeper and older set of oppositions between the private and public, success and failure, between hidden obsessions in our daily traffic with one another, and those oppositions make less sense every day. And so this installation functions superbly as both art and provocation. And it's about desire. How are we manipulated? Can we never have enough? Who, how, and what we desire determine who, how, and what we are.
There's a woman who came through and she had these two young boys with her that were maybe 9, 10 years old. One of them said, "Oh, it's like when you're doing something one day, but you keep doing the same thing over and over again, and so nothing changes because you don't make any different choices."
This 80, thinking she's over 80 years old, where she's dressed in like a gentleman's hat, gentleman's pant, and she's tailored everything to herself, but it's all man-looking clothing. And she came later to the panel, and then she came back twice, and I was here both the times she came back with different friends that she brought, which was just so cool.
I think what struck me the most were those people that we were talking about a little bit yesterday who had come in and sort of look at the entryway and not go in, and instead they would just walk around the outside, and then we would invite them to go inside and they would say no, and they would go away.
Which is, comical. It's sort of like there's a carnival sitting in front of you and you don't want to
go
look at
in.
it. And we didn't have fried dough or funnel cake.
And that's probably where
we went wrong, clearly.
Clearly.
But I mean, otherwise,
I make a mean cotton candy.
I am cotton candy.
You are.
Girls grow up, that what they're around and the influence they see and have, as do boys, that gets in them, and then they get bigger, and they become whatever they become. But I guess the idea is that the little thing that you put there, the things that are planted in their brain or in their heart or in their soul, they just get bigger and they just keep growing. They don't just go away. And so being thoughtful and mindful about what their influences are is really important. And women are as important as men are, and men are as important as women are, and boys and girls are equally important. And when you think about our society and how it's changed over the last 100, 200, 500 years, everyone's role is really valuable, and women do a lot of the raising of children. And as much as that continues to evolve and change, we still send a message that is a big part of who they should be or will be. And so if you believe even a little bit that women play a big role in creating the next generation of people and influencing the next generation of people. I think it would be wise, even if you're not concerned about the women, if you're just concerned about the next generation of people, it would be wise to take good care of the women.
Mm-hmm.